everyone, James Nine Numbers here, and welcome back to another episode of the Political Freedom Fighters Podcast. And in this episode, we got a very special guest for you all today. This is my first independent candidate. This is basically my first interview with an independent person, let alone an independent candidate who is running for U.S. Senate for North Carolina, who is running for Tom Tillis's seat, who, by the way, is not running again for U.S. Senate, but with that being said, I want to introduce you all to the independent challenger, Shaunesi DeBerry. How are you?
Hello, James. Thank you so much.
You are very, very welcome. Anyways, let's get started. Let's introduce you. Like, who are you and what do you do?
Who am I? Let me, if I can be transparent, I'm human. I'm American. I'm a millennial. I'm a well-rounded, educated woman, a person who has all of the qualifications to run for Senate because they're pretty straightforward. You just have to be a U.S. candidate over the age of 35, I believe, and then live in the area at the time that your election starts. But I wear a lot of hats. And my first hat, again, you will hear me continue to go back to being human because I believe that in the state of America right now, we lack human decency and respect for people who are independent. And so while I have years of service in nonprofit, telecommunications, law, civil rights, education advocacy, network marketing, you name it. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I am just like everybody else. I'm a everyday individual who's really fed up with having to go through this custody battle with the Democrats and the Republicans. And I just want to step out for a second and try my luck and see if people who can relate to me understand I'm not your average politician. Unlike your average politician who doesn't who won't transparently say, hey, I made six figures and then I faced eviction or then I got on food stamps and Medicaid, but now I'm building my way back up and I want North Carolina to build with me. I was wrongfully convicted before. I represented myself at a jury trial. I got a partial acquittal. I'm in the appellate process right now. I want people who've been wrongfully convicted or feel like their due process was taken advantage of. I want you guys to know that when we have a president that has a mugshot for whatever reasons he has his for, there are some of us who have been penalized for our political views, and we've gotten caught in the crossfire of that. And I'm willing to let my mess be my message to the world. So who I am is I'm a perfect hodgepodge of everybody. I believe that everybody matters. I believe that there is no wrong question, and the only question that is stupid is the one that's not asked. I believe that anybody can do whatever they put their mind to. I also want to make sure that I make this very clear. I am a strong advocate for redefining what mental illness looks like because I think that a lot of people play with that. And so, being a former second vice president of the NAACP in the state of Maryland, I learned a lot about what human rights looks like, civil rights looks like, and due process looks like. So to answer your question, I feel confident in saying that I'm a little bit of everybody. In short.
I understand that. And for those of you that are wondering what's up with the audio qualities, I do apologize. There are some audio connection problems coming from both her end and on my end as well. So I do apologize. I did the best that I could, but I'm just glad that Shaunesi is here. But by the way, what were you like wrongfully convicted of?
So let me be very clear about why I'm coming home, guys. I'm originally born and raised in Durham, North Carolina. And my mother and my father wanted me to go to school to become an attorney, and I ended up getting married and moving overseas with my ex-husband, who was a professional basketball player. And I didn't really see the value in continuing my college education because I was a homemaker, right? In 2020, we came down to North Carolina. Fast forward, sorry, fast forward about 20 years later, right? In 2020, we came down to North Carolina because my father was, I was told to me that my father was dying. When we got there, um, it was really weird. Me and my two minor children were escorted out of my father's house by Durham County Sheriff with no clear reason why. And my daughters and I started to be harassed interstate in the height of COVID. In 2022, we moved back to Maryland. We left and went to Texas for a little while. We moved back to Maryland. My daughter had a mental health crisis. I called the police for them to take her to the doctor, to the hospital. Instead of them taking her to the hospital, they charged me with first degree assault, second degree assault, and reckless endangerment. And you're able to look this story up and tie it all together, and it'll make sense as to why I am running for U.S. Senate in the state of North Carolina. They dropped the first degree assault. They I was acquitted of reckless endangerment, and they left this second degree assault, left my daughter in limbo, and all of it tied back to me suing the state of North Carolina, Duke Hospital, and a couple of other people because nobody knew the time that my father died, his cause of death. But as I said at the beginning, we were removed from his bed, and right now I'm in litigation with the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, and in all of these cases, I represent myself. So that's why I'm really passionate about coming back to North Carolina because there's so many things that has to be addressed in the state of North Carolina, from elderly neglect to next of kin to retaliation to education to understanding in the height of a pandemic how things were handled to it crossing over to another state, to the other state. I'll let the story play itself out publicly. However, that was the charge, and it's for my child who was a minor at the time. I'm also a homeschool mom, and a lot of us received a lot of retaliation for homeschooling our children. That particular child graduated at 16, got into 83 colleges, got 800,000 in scholarships. So I don't go. We don't follow the traditional public school norm. So it was a lot of logistics that played into that. Also, because I represented myself and I got an acquittal, there's a thing called trial penalty where they frown upon people who are educated enough to know their rights. And so to create a narrative that they needed to create, they pretty much tried to stick me with this. Keep it in mind, before this, I had absolutely no criminal background. And it was funny because my estranged family from North Carolina appeared at court in Maryland. And so, and at that time, and just to be clear, I did vote for the current administration, but I am an independent. And I caught a lot of retaliation for that, which has caused me to look deeper into both parties. And that's why I am making my own move in politics right now. But to answer your question in short, it was for my then minor child.
Damn, I'm sorry to hear that. And well, you already answered part of my next question, so let's talk about your history, like other aspects of your history.
So my history, let's see. In 2011, I started my first business, my baby, which I will be bringing back in full force to North Carolina, which is my nonprofit called Women Wear Pants Too, enriching the lives of women, single mothers, and survivors of domestic violence. I started that because back then, my first experience with North Carolina courts, my ex-husband was an international professional athlete, and the courts were not enforcing the child support at all. And so I became frustrated because I didn't know that was possible. And so I said, it's okay. Women wear pants too. So I became this self-sufficient woman who made sure that my children had whatever they needed. And then in the domestic violence situation that we were in, that I didn't make myself a victim, I became a survivor, a victor. I took that stuff and I let it make me a better person, to know my worth and to know more things about me and to raise more quality children. That's why it was laughable when the stuff came from my dad and they tried to make me look like this mother that I'm not. My daughters are ready to speak to the public, and they will in the future. But that was my first baby. From that, we went all over the United States and in other countries with the Break the Cycle, Not the Love movement, which was a t-shirt movement, asking people, if you could break any cycle in the world, what would it be and why? That took off, which led me to get into network marketing, where I built teams and leaders all over the United States and multiple other countries with different products and services for health and wellness products. I then started to double and dabble in telecommunications. So I did everything from wireless on up to public and private sector as it relates to business solutions. So the issues that you're having with your connection, I would come in and say, hey, let me make sure that you got a better internet speed, or here, maybe let's try this software, or here, let's do this, let's do that. Any residential, I may help a grandma make sure that she had a backup router or a generator so that she could always have access to 911, things like that. And then I got into small and medium sized business. And once I made my move up to the DMV area years after my divorce, and me and my daughters decided to relocate, I started to get in on like different boards like PTA, and then just talking to people that like, you're born to be a leader, Shaunesi. Oh my goodness. And I was nominated for 40 under 40 for education in Prince George's County, Maryland, because I whistle blew on them not weighing grades correctly because I'm a policy reader. And then I got appointed to second vice president of the NAACP, but I realized that that didn't fit with me because the people don't know the NAACP is a national association for colored people, which means if you're pink, you're green, you're blue, you're purple, that's who they were supposed to serve. But it kind of came off as it served a certain group of people. And in my growth as an independent, I realized I want to just be a place where color doesn't matter, right? And so I got more and more into civil rights. I started advocating more. People started asking me, could I look over their wrongful suspensions of their children and things like that. So that's when I started to dabble into education advocacy. And from there, it's just been a growing number of things where people have came to me for me to consult with them, or for them to consult with me for everything from homeschooling to how do you rebuild your life when you are being harassed by a group of powerful people. How do you take that and say, you know what, because of this, I'm going to do this next. And how do you go where you're going? With me even putting out this Senate campaign, which I filed on July the 4th, and here we are only the 18th. I've had so many people ask me, well, who built your website? Well, who did? I did everything. And I plan to continue to do everything to show other people that there's a quote by Arthur Ashe. It says, to achieve greatness, start where you are, use what you got, and do what you can. And we're in a digital era right now. And the Constitution is very, very, very old, and it was simplified. So those people didn't have a lot of the tools that we have, right? And so if you believe firmly about something and you believe in yourself, the first thing to do is to get going. And so for my years of leadership and motivating, team building, and telling people to go, I had to pour it back into myself. And I know that with the history that I have, it only makes sense for me to bring it home to North Carolina and say, hey guys, here is my complete mess. My life is just as much as a clusterfuck as America, right? However, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And if I am able to continue to look myself in the mirror and say, this is where I have flaws, this is where I'm perfect, this is where I can help others, then I can continue to make things happen. Because I'm a no nonsense and no excuses type of person, I've been able to make sure that my daughters and I had whatever it is that we need, even in things happening where my businesses have been tarnished or our housing situations have been strategically, we've had to relocate and do different things like that. So because of that, I wholeheartedly believe that as a person coming into politics, if you have someone who may be low income and they've never seen the other side where I have, I most definitely can help and guide them and show them how to self-sustain. If you have someone who has hidden disabilities like anxiety or major depressive disorder or ADHDs or things like that, I most definitely can talk to them. I'm an expert in that. You don't have politicians that say, "Hey, I don't like to hear the sound of balloons popping," or I was in a situation where I was a domestic violence victim or survivor, or I was an abuser. You don't have people who are coming out and being transparent and saying, hey, these are the issues that we have in the workplace. These are the issues that we have in schools. These are the issues that we have in the community. These are the issues we have in business owners. You don't have a lot of politicians who've actually lived overseas. Another fun fact about me, I lived in Italy and Turkey. I took Latin in high school. And so I'm very, very, very cultured. I can read and speak other languages. And in my network marketing experiences, I've made a lot of business connections with people from different walks of life. And so I just think that my history, to answer your question, is built upon a very, very, very versatile portfolio that a lot of your average and traditional politicians couldn't have if they tried.
All right, I actually do really appreciate that long answer. So, I think you answered my next question, which was why are you running for U.S. Senate as an independent? So, I guess really, I remember
Go ahead.
reading about you previously running for U.S. Senate in Maryland in 2024. We can talk about that.
There's nothing to talk about. Maryland is one of the most corrupt states in the United States. They me from the ballot. Nothing to
Yeah,
talk
like
about.
why did they do that? Anyways,
So, as it relates to the stuff with my father, is all. So I was in Prince George's County at the time, like I said, and so the actual current senator Angela also Brooks, she's from Prince George's County, and she had the power to intervene or to make some calls so that my family wouldn't bother me, and we wouldn't get to the point of somebody being able to try to get me in court for my child and excuse me, blah blah blah, and she did not intervene. We actually helped her on her campaign as county executive, and so it's a lot of politics. Again, before I was a Republican, I was a Democrat, and that's why I stand as an independent. I actually have sat with a lot of these politicians, guys, and this I don't want to bash anybody, and I won't. But I've sat with a lot of these people, and what you see is not who they are because some of us actually know them in real life. And so when it comes to Maryland, these people put who they want where they want. And so that's pretty much what happened with that. And I everybody's like, why didn't you sue? I mean, I'm still with the statute of limitations, but right now I think I have a stronger fight and a bigger platform. And even if the universe doesn't see fit for me to win, right? At least I went out and I spread awareness and I hopefully inspire other people to stop talking, stop complaining. And if you see a problem, get on a ballot. It only takes a couple seconds to get on the ballot.
all right, that's actually pretty awesome. So I guess the next two questions are going to be related to your opinion on the Democrats and Republicans. So I guess I'm going to first start off with the Republicans since they are the ones currently holding the seat. What is your view on the Republican Party as of right now?
As of right now, I compare the Democrats and the Republicans to my mom and dad. They divorced when I was in the fifth grade, and we are the children, right? And the Democrats and the Republicans equally have us, the children, in a ugly custody battle, and it's very, very hard. And guess who ends up having that trauma? The children, right? We're sitting here like, hey, well, I know that mom, you're a Democrat, and dad, you're a Republican, but can we just get along for the children, right? The citizens. And neither party has proven that they are able to publicly co-parent, if that makes sense. The Republicans, I will say, and I actually did an amicus brief on the North Carolina. It's a case still pending in the North Carolina Court of Appeals right now, which they let me do an amicus brief on about elections, and the Republican Party is a part of this case. None of those people reached out to me while I was still a Republican and say, "Oh my God, um, you actually are advocating for us. Hey, you want to volunteer? Do you want to do this? You want to do that? We need more people." I'm not sure if it was because I'm a woman, if I'm a woman of color, I'm a millennial. I'm not sure what the reasons were behind that. And a lot of stuff that could have prevented me from having to say, hey, I'll get on the ballot and I will, you know what I'm saying? I will fight for the change I want to see. Did my party at the time do what I would have hoped they would have done? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And right now it's the same. It looks the same, and I feel like it's the same. You don't know what you're going to get from the Republicans or the Democrats at any given time, except what's guaranteed is that they're going to argue with each other.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like you answered both that question and your opinion on the Democrats. If you want, you can elaborate a little further on the Democrats.
For sure, for sure. I'll elaborate on the Democrats. Being a person of color, we're raised to vote Democrat because that's pretty much how it goes in our upbringing. And so, as I evolved, and like I said, I actually worked on campaigns. I've been a campaign manager for a lot of different prominent people in the DMV area, DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, and just like actually looking at it and seeing that. Sometimes in that party, people would tear down their own people where they should lift them up at. It's almost disgusting, and it's to the point where if you don't agree with their views, then you get thrown out of the. It could be one thing you don't agree with, and so that is what really pushed me to lean more towards the Republican side. My father voted for Donald Trump before he passed, and so really opened my eyes up to like, wait a minute, because my dad was 70 years old. He was born and raised in the projects, but he was ended up being a small business owner, paid cash for his house, and he had a college education. He had a bachelor in education. I started to like have my aha moment, right? And I'm like, what do I want to become? And so I thought that the Republican road might be right because looking at a parent who said no to Democrats after being raised that way and was able to articulate about it, I was like, okay, maybe I need to look into the Republican side. But after I weighed out the pros and cons of both, I was like, I know where I need to be. So just to answer your question, the my experience as a previous Democrat and then just looking at it, it kind of gave me the feel of a gang, and you can't have any other views, or even like a toxic relationship, you can't have any other views, or you're just either crazy or you're kicked out of the cool kid crew. And that's not how politics should be. You should be able to have your open political freedom. You should be able to say, okay, well, I voted for the Democrat here, but I voted for a Republican there, and maybe I voted for an independent there, because that's what works in my household. And it should never get you things like harassed, retaliated on, kicked out of, certain things. And I also don't believe that one thing that I experience as a Democrat, that because you are a person of color, you have to be a Democrat. I believe in political freedom to go with whatever party works for you.
All right, that's awesome. All right, I guess we're gonna go over your platform and go into the Shaunese's priorities. Let's talk more action. I guess I'm gonna start reading from the beginning and all the way to the end, and then I'll elaborate more on what other issues you plan to talk about. My top priority is to ensure everyday Americans have common sense, equal access to the entire government, courts, and programs within reason to assure a streamlined experience and a logical and amicable resolve. When I took an interest in when I first took an interest in civil rights, it appeared more people of color had their due process violated. Arguably, January 6, 2021, we saw an influx in the Caucasian community and others having their due process violated, along with the current commander in chief. Currently, the hot topic is that immigrants are having their due process violated. It appears our current Senate is in need of aid in multitasking equal rights and equal asset. It is my duty to bring my neutral expertise to the nation's capital. Over the next few months, I'll elaborate on my priorities in detail via video, interviews, and more. For now, please read below for a general answer that touches the mental wellness, self sustainability, and business solutions I believe NC residents can benefit from that I've been blessed to experience myself. I guess I'll talk about this first aspect first before we go into your policies on your website. So let's talk about that.
So we're in a digital era. Nobody should have to wonder what anything looks like as it relates to court. Right now, the hot topic is the Epstein files, and we're saying that the commander in chief is having to have the attorney general to petition the courts for access to these things. I've built websites, I've built logos, I've done flyers, I've done IT, you name it. It's time to streamline access to these things. If you want to represent yourself in court, you should be able to have the tools that you need to immediately do that. If you have any outstanding anything in a court, if you're interested in knowing about a case in a court, you should be able to attend these things on the Constitution for North Carolina says the court shall be open. And so, specific to North Carolina, I learned that while going through a lot of litigation for my dad's estate, and with the current litigation that I have with the North Carolina Department of Justice, and there's a lot of gatekeeping. If you look me up even more, you'll see that a judge in North Carolina, in Durham, North Carolina, put a gatekeeping order against me, barring me from any access to my dad's whereabouts. They would not let me exhume his body. And I just found out the DOJ just emailed me today with some more information to find out when and how he died and what his final time looked like. And this is year 5. When we talk about due process, they're in human rights, and human rights are God-given rights. For the longest, a lot of courts and people in the government and bar attorneys have been able to block everyday people out from accessing the courts. And we think you may need an attorney or you may need to talk to somebody for this. When now, because we're in a digital era, you can simply just, Google it or look it up or go to that website. So, as it relates to that, a lot of people don't even know what due process is. A lot of people don't know when their due process is being violated. It could be from somebody not informing you of your right to appeal to them not allowing you access to participate in one of your proceedings. And it doesn't always have to be a criminal proceeding. It could be a proceeding for a mother who's trying to get child care subsidy, or a IEP or 504 meeting for a child in a school, all the way on up to you participate in a Supreme Court hearing with your counsel, or reasonable accommodations. So a lot of people don't know what that looks like. And because we have the hot topic in the Supreme Court of the United States right now and other courts, um, I want to make sure that people have access from down to something small all the way up to something big in our systems, because that is in our Constitution, the North Carolina Constitution specifically, and that's how it should be.
All right, and I'm really glad you mentioned due process. When it comes to due process among the third parties, the state board of elections has not given a damn in the past few years. First, they did it with the Green Party when the State Board of Elections initially rejected them by a 3-2 vote, but luckily the Greens were able to win after having to file a court case. And 2 years later, the Constitution, We the People, and Justice for All parties later have been going through the same obstacles from having to go through the State Board of Elections in order to get on the ballot after getting the amount of signatures that they also needed. But unfortunately, they did end up facing delays, and a lot of the third parties ended up assembling together. And luckily, the Constitution Party did get certified on July 9th, but the We the People and Justice for All parties got delayed like a week, where the We the People party would eventually be certified on a 4-1 vote. However, the Justice for All party would get rejected by a 3-2 vote, and the Justice for All party had to sue to get back on the ballot.
Right. And so when you say get back on the ballot, those are our ballots, guys. You don't have to ask for permission. And that's the problem. And so when I say access, when we're talking about software, so I'm all my history, I'm the girl who used to sell a lot of software for companies to be able to run, or either run or to stop someone from coming in, right? And so I know what can and can't be done. And so when we're talking about the access to the courts, or being able to access ballots, or being able to access things as it relates to election or election integrity, these are things that before they could say we can't have access to that because we didn't have a simple click solution, right? But now we're in a digital era again where you can simply go online and it takes 2 seconds for you to yay or nay something. You can tell if something is blocked or kicked back. And so because of that, I'm very excited for independence to be able to, make our voices heard, because the same internet that they use to issue e-filing to deny someone access to something is the same internet that they're going to have to use to allow us to get in. It's not going to take forever to access these things anymore.
All right. Anyways, let's go over the 3 issues that you got. Mental wellness matters. Stigma surrounding mental quote unquote illness creates instant civil rights violations when ignorantly or incompetently addressed. As a mental wellness advocate who openly advocates for persons with hidden disabilities, I plan to bring federal ADA compliant expertise to assuring we redefine what mental illness is, and more importantly, how to assure citizens are able to maintain their mental wellness with effective resources for such. Oh, sorry, I would like to get some more clarification for that.
So, coming from North Carolina, I was raised in a holiness church, and so there's a lot of stigmas behind if someone's depressed or if they are whatever, like whatever's going on with somebody, they would instantly say that someone had the devil in them, right? And you just need to go to church, right? And those are things that I had to evolve into unlearning, and so on my journey of being different, being willing to be the black sheep, being willing to be the one that was misunderstood, I became more self-aware. So, and then having children of my own and getting involved on PTAs and things like that, and seeing parents who are advocating for their children as well, you realize that even, and then as adults, oh my goodness, in corporate America, um, my doctor told me you don't belong in a cubicle. That's the problem. You need to be out in the world. You're a leader. Why would you, limit yourself to that? So a priority with mental wellness, not illness, specifically to North Carolina, is because living over the world and then moving somewhere else and coming back home, I realized how many resources are not there, how much of a stigma may still exist, and how many people do not know their worth and do not know, they don't have the confidence because they've beat down on themselves so much and they've told themselves in their head that they can't be the next leader, or they can't own their own business, or they can't apply for that job, or they can't get that house. It's like in their head it's not a thing, right? And I believe that in order to grow a better community, to grow a better economy, people have to first become self-aware within. And so in order to do that, we need to start being more transparent about a lot of the people that we group as having mental issues may be somebody who just needs a couple of rest and relaxation days from work, or to go to a park, or to be told that they matter, and to stop making it like it is this horrible badge for you to be depressed sometimes, or for you to, feel like, and be clear, there are more serious issues, but for a lot of people, we just need people who simply believe in us. To see how excited you were, I could read your enthusiasm when I wrote you back. To see when I came on the line, how excited, I know that no matter what, I made somebody feel good, which makes me feel good. And I may not know what the person may be battling on the other side, if they ever battle anything, but these are things that a lot of North Carolinians need to know, because when I go to other places, when I'm the top salesperson in a company, when I'm the person in the room who knows stuff, guess what that comes from? It comes from my Southern upbringing. It comes from me being a person who uses my hands, and I do it by default in other states. But in my own state, I want people to know, don't let whatever you were told, be it by your family, your doctor, or someone may have tried to give you a diagnosis that may not even fit your narrative anymore. We do have resources for you to evolve. We do have resources for you to take time to disconnect, to reconnect. You do not have to get to a breaking point. And I don't like the fact that I talk to so many social workers and people in courts and people in schools, educators in North Carolina, and the resources are still not there. And a lot of people ask all the time, like, well, can you give me your resources? Unfortunately, my doctor don't see out of state patients, right? But it would be amazing if we could teach more children how to put more of focus on degrees in psychology, or self-awareness, or solutions-based therapy, instead of trying to continue to medicate people with pills and, big pharma type techniques. Show people things like yoga, showing people how to re-regulate their nervous system, showing people how to break generational curses. Just because you inherited it doesn't mean that it can't stop with you. More generational curse breakers. But again, this is all about mental wellness. So it would take a lot of people becoming self-aware and saying, I'm ready to sign up for that, so that we could incorporate those things, but I don't believe North Carolina is utilizing or has ever fully utilized the resources that they have, coming from my first diagnosis of depression being in North Carolina and them just trying to give me medication, to come into another state 10, 15 years later and they're saying, no, you just need to take a break. Don't do anything for the next week or so and then try it again. And boom, that worked, you know, and I didn't have adverse effects of medication. Putting children on medication for ADHD and things like that when their frontal lobe is still developing, and then you have them getting adverse effects from this medication, you know, and then they're growing up to be adults and they're wondering why they have heart issues or other issues, and it's because you've been being pumped with, you know, this these chemicals for years because you didn't want to sit still when maybe you needed to be in a school outside where you could roam around, and maybe you didn't need to have that label on you, you know. For elderly people, making sure that elderly people are able to adapt to change so they don't feel like they're senile or going crazy, right? Trying to accommodate our communities to show more empathy. And while it may sound like a reach, it's definitely possible.
All right, that's actually a pretty amazing response. All right, self sustainability is possible. Between both school, work, and family, I bring expertise on navigating through adversity and the highs and lows of implementing effective real life strategies to sustain whether a single individual or in a two-person household with children. This expertise will help Americans access to state and federal resources to ensure they aren't hindered by their temporary adversities and can effectively maintain or revamp their lives as needed. So, why add self sustainability to your platform?
We are in a big debate right now where some people are upset that they may have to work more hours in order to continue to get things like food stamps and, you know, Medicaid. And where people don't understand that while our government is there for us when we fall on hard times, it should never be a crutch. And so to make sure that people know that, we have to show them how to self-sustain, how you can make six figures driving for Uber just like you can make six figures being a doctor. You know what I'm saying? Times have changed. Before, it was a little bit harder and you did need a formal education. I mean, you can make a YouTube channel and go viral and become a millionaire these days. And so self sustainability, and the reason that I put it there is because a lot of people, again, back to my quote by Arthur Ashe, they don't know how to start where they are, use what they got, and do what they can. And if we develop approach of sustainability where we start allowing for conversations about, well, my small business doesn't look like me having a brick and mortar. Maybe it looks like me starting a podcast and growing my audience and showing people how to effectively do that. That could help them get, you know, tap into make their purpose their paycheck. So it will simultaneously help with the mental health and it'll also help with the finances because when you get to a certain amount of followers or views, you also can have your, you know, you can get residual for that. And so getting back into trades, making sure that people are using their hands. This is what I knew in North Carolina is the 80s baby on up until I left. I believe I left in like 2005ish. But being able to self-sustain, my personal experience while we were going through this nightmare with my dad's estate, I made up in my mind I was going to go back and finish my college degree. My daughter said she wanted to graduate high school 2 years early. We both achieved our goals. We did this while being strategically evicted. Sometimes car camping, sleeping in the car. We still had faith in Wi-Fi. Sometimes you'll see like they would follow us at different hotels and do different stuff like that. No matter what, the next day we still got up and we went for it. A lot of people go through a lot less adversity and they don't know how to go. My motto is letting my mess be my message to the world. I don't take adversity lightly. However, I do believe that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and a lot of people are just not told, hey, I can't relate. And that's why I feel like I had someone send me a crazy cryptic email today and say, you can't run for Senate because you're this and you're that and you're this and you're that. And I told them, please send all of that to the news so we can talk about it. Because I think that as the person that I am bold enough to tell the world I'm not perfect. I didn't never say that, but to be in a situation where you're making rules for laws and change for your people, you would want somebody that has a little bit more experience than being a barred attorney or being in this big organization or being friends with the former yada yada yada. And so self sustainability is something that is important because it's what I use and it's what built me to get where I'm at. I was not always at this. A lot of people say, "Oh my God, well, you were a former basketball wife." People don't understand the logistics that come with that. We went from millions of dollars to food stamps and Medicaid overnight because of things like judges not enforcing child support or certain things not going certain ways. So self sustainability is something that all ties into the whole mental wellness thing. And when you make it up in your mind as a citizen, as a North Carolinian, as an American, that you want change for you and your family, when you make it up in your mind that you're tired of arguing with teachers about how to handle your children, when you make it up in your mind that you're tired of arguing with your boss or trying to negotiate your pay or your salary, when you make it up in your mind that you want to do something, you will do that and you will tell yourself, right now, I may be here, but I have a goal and a deadline and I'm going to achieve that. So the more that resources that I've used before and those that already exist are able to be pulled together and shared with other people in, the government, hopefully for a amicable resolve, I do believe that more North Carolinians and Americans can become more self sufficient because they'll realize there are so many opportunities out there. It doesn't matter if you're a felon. It doesn't matter what it is. Our current president is a felon. He got a lot of them. People with felonies should be very motivated right now. Take that as a message, no matter what your political affiliation is. And so, self sustainability to me is about making sure that people know that no, it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And if you wake up and you have a pulse the next day to keep going, there are resources out there for you to take it to the next level if you want to.
All right, that was a pretty good response. All right, I guess the last policy solution in your platform is business solutions exist for all. I've been a small business owner slash entrepreneur off and on for years. Americans need to know trades matter. I bring expertise in ensuring whether it's a Fortune 500 company or individual, it is possible to get started and excel in a business that can grow both your dreams and the economy. Most people aren't aware of the resources for such. Together we can change this. So what kind of business solutions would you offer?
So there's so many. I've branded people from anything from a singer or a rapper on up to someone who said, "Hey, I'm a survivor of we'll say sexual assault and I want to start my own nonprofit," to a person saying, "Hey, my lights are going to get cut off in 2 days. How can I make some money?" Right? There's so many different things, and you'll hear me go back to the digital era and digital solutions because there's so many things. I have friends right now who are making $5,000 and $6,000 a week on gig apps. There are jobs that you can do for one day. My daughter told me, she said, "Ma, I signed up for this app and I just work. I just have to have some black sneakers and I can work at McDonald's tomorrow and they'll pay me $16 an hour for an 8 hour shift because I need more money because I'm going on a trip." I'm not sure that a lot of people know about these things. It's not always about being the seven figure earner, right? It's about being able to sustain. And so there's so many different business solutions and ways to grow the economy together. And even if you're just using those things to get started, if you say, "I want to start a business, but I don't have the $200 to get my articles of incorporation or my LLC," there are small things that you can do in order to get to those bigger dreams. And in North Carolina, there are so many people who have so much potential because we know how to work for food that they are not utilizing the resources that are there, or maybe they don't have that push or that person to say, "Hey, this is how I started mine and it worked for me. You can do the same. Even if I've started it and I failed before, you still can do it on your own. Let your story be your story, but take these things." And so because there's so much money, there's so many small business grants, and then there's so many opportunities to where you can seriously do it yourself. I wholeheartedly believe that once I'm able to really sit at the table, really do a little bit more of my own due diligence and looking into where those funds are being dispersed and how much they're not using. Because what I learned when we started having conversations about Doge and different things like that, is that a lot of these fundings are there, and if we don't know about them, if it's a use it or lose it type situation, and then the politicians have been able to use that for either their own stuff or for things that don't matter. And the only reason they've been able to do that is because everyday people, the average layperson, didn't know that that grant or that funding existed for them to get started.
Ah, that actually makes sense. So, with that being said, what other issues do you plan on adding to your website?
So many. I want to start with I want to go a little bit deeper into like how the state, specific to North Carolina, how we are bringing judges in. A lot of people know so much about right now. They know everything about Donald Trump. They know his ankles are swollen. They know an Epstein list didn't get out, blah blah blah. But they do not know the day-to-day operations of the state. They don't understand the district court judge, the superior court judge, the appellate court judges. They don't understand their local council people, the boards. And so I really want to educate more on that to help people understand why we're having this big cat fight about the federal Democrats and Republicans or the current administration. Look in your backyard and really know what's going on in your backyard, because I believe that local elections and local politics and state laws, there are a lot of laws that are so outdated that people are like, how does that exist? Because you've never challenged it before. And in a digital era, if it's something that you don't agree with, North Carolina has North Carolina electronic filing. Go file in their case, research, learn the form and format, and go for it. We need more people. We cannot storm capitals. We cannot we can't do so much of a free speech without it being considered harassment or threats. So why don't you campaign in a courtroom? Why don't you campaign in a boardroom? Why? And then again, with the digital era, we're able to participate remotely. And so that's what I will be bringing more access to, is educating on the organizational chart of North Carolina, all up and down through each county, and then those courts, because a lot of people don't know how to navigate through those things. Really putting a strong focus on public safety and health and human services. My experience with my father, some of the stuff that will be revealed publicly or may already be out on the internet. I cannot believe that mandated reporters and a director of social service or a director of human services, health and human services, their policies are not being enforced. And so those are things that we have to hold them accountable for, because right now I'm 41 years old, but I'll be an old woman one day. And I would hope that if I retire in North Carolina, that I don't have to worry about my children having to worry about if the adult protective services or the health and human services handle their stuff the correct way within policy, state and federal. Making sure that elderly people have the access that they need to certain things is one of my things. Bringing back things like candy strippers, or the excitement of it. I was a candy striper where I volunteered before I was able to work, so I had to sit with people in a rest home, teaching our children that this thing goes around full circle. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of that would be brought back into bringing North Carolina, making it southern again, making it, where we people had they were empaths versus the egos that are there now. That's not the North Carolina that I was raised on, and that's not the North Carolina that I will stand behind. And so it almost makes it very hard, because it's like, how do I come in and I say, oh, well, I'm going to build on economic efficiency and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, when we have to go all the way down to the root and build back up. So while a lot of other candidates are going to say, oh, I'm going to increase this by that and I'm going to do this, there's a quote that says charity starts at home and spreads abroad. And so because of that, we have to heal our residents as a whole while simultaneously building back up, so that all of the other stuff can make sense. If not, it will never be designed for the little people. It'll always be for the rich, and nobody will ever, the poor will never be able, or the middle class will never be able to even believe that they can get there. So to answer your question, or to close this out, I will be bringing more focus on multiple different parts of how we are um, navigating through from youth on up to the elderly and anything in between as it relates to public health and public safety, uh, criminal justice reform, obviously, and the laws that we currently have. I really want to look at a lot of the laws that we have in North Carolina and see how they exist, why they exist, and what we need to do to either remix them or get them up out of there because they're not working for the people.
All right, that's actually pretty awesome. Anyways, what's your strategy to get on the ballot? Because when it comes to the petitioning process for independence, it is massively merciless. It's over 83K, and it's not just for U.S. Senate; it's all statewide races, including president. So, what's the strategy to get on the ballot?
Oh, you'll hear me go back to a lot of different quotes. There's a quote that says, "Faith without works is dead." Right. So the first thing is I have the faith, and now I just have to get to work again because we're in a digital era. I don't have the worry that a lot of other people have because I already saw when I started or tried to start with Maryland how this could go. And then I've been a lot of people have reached out to me. There are a lot of people that wish that they could do this, and so because of that, I don't have the worry of that. The strategy in short will be to go digital. Just so you know, my campaign will be the first all digital campaign. I won't be coming down to North Carolina until I meet every goal that I have personally, as well as some that I'll share with the public very soon. All of this stuff will be done online. Everything will be done fully online. All interviews will be done online. We are going to put the pressure on North Carolina. A lot of the court filings for the stuff with my dad said, "Oh, she's another Facebooker, by the way," and things like that. So I noticed that a lot of these people they fear the digital era, and so because of that, everything you can watch it live from your house because you don't understand the power of social media. You don't understand the power of the digital era. And so my strategy is going to be digital solutions.
That's awesome. I really like to hear that a campaign going online. Maybe in the future, I might consider doing something like that. Maybe do a fully online campaign and maybe run for like U.S. Congress or something. That would be really interesting.
I'm taking notes. Everything that I'm doing, down to getting the filing fees and all of these other things that I have, I'm taking notes because leaders create more leaders. And so I wholeheartedly believe that being an independent, when you don't have the funding and the backing, up front, or whatever, you have to take notes so you can share that with other people so they can say, okay, it wasn't as hard as I thought. And if I can do get right here, then I can keep going and it'll teach them how to grow a team and to grow a following and to grow all of the things that they need to sustain on their campaigns because it's getting out there first. And you never know, running for Senate may reveal there's something else I'm supposed to do. Or a lot of people say, well, what are you going to do if you actually win? And I'm like, the same thing that they do. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to figure it out because it looks like Ray Charles is leading Stevie Wonder right now. Nobody, you don't hear is somebody say, okay, so on the first day as a senator, you're going to do blah, 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 or here is the employee handbook. These people are saying, hey, I'm fed up. What is it going to take to get this change and how long is it going to take to get this change? So that's my strategy is the digital strategy as well as being prepared to go however I need to go if I make it there.
Yeah, as of right now, we do not know who the Democrats or Republicans are going to put up. In the Republican primary right now, it's looking a little be like mainly Laura Trump, but if she doesn't run, maybe it'll be like either Tim Moore or Phil Berger. And in the Democratic side, it's looking to be like Roy Cooper might be their potential nominee. Look, to be honest with you, I do not like Roy Cooper, I do not like Tim Moore, and I do not like Phil Berger. And a lot of my anger with them in particular does have to do with ballot access.
Right? Right. And so Roy Cooper was actually the governor during a lot of the stuff with my dad. And so I reached out to his what is it called? His the office or whatever. it's not just ballot access, it's access in general, guys. And so when you're not able to access certain stuff and you call in and you're like, hey, I just wanted to get general information on who I would talk to if I'm trying to, let's hypothetically say, file a complaint against yada yada yada, and those people may hang up the phone, or if you're tech savvy like me and you know that your email has already been blocked and so it's kicking back, you know that these people knew more than what they let on to during COVID, during a public health crisis, as well as a lot of other things. And to know that Roy Cooper started in 1987, I think he was in a I think he was a U.S. representative, and then he did some more stuff, and then he was the attorney general from 2000 to 2017, 2 terms as a governor. And to even know that now he's even considering or being highly considered to be that person, it shows that there are gatekeepers that they need to keep in place, because there's absolutely no reason why you have gave that much service to a state and you think that you need to come back as a senator. Like, at what point do we say thank you for your service? While they say judges should have term limits the older they get. At what point do we say you've done enough? We've seen enough. You know, you allegedly ran these perfect campaigns and you've never lost an election. Thank you for your service, because in a digital era, you have people like myself who has a lot of stuff that happened under his watch that people don't know about, in addition to the other things. And so it's not the same. So the good boys who were on the ballots before, I know you mentioned like Berger and a couple of those other people, like, it's things that can come out. A lot of people don't have a problem when we're tearing down the current administration. This could be state level. People can bring out stuff that may not be so pretty about them as well. And I'm not saying that that's something that I would do. This is just something that could potentially happen as it relates to the Republicans. I do wholeheartedly believe that Laura Trump is gonna put her bid in, and I hope that she does. She went to NC State and so did my ex-husband, so that would be really funny to see. Her coming in, I didn't know before that she had lived in Wilmington or whatever, and so it's just I think that would be pretty cool. I think that this would be a very diverse group. There's a couple of other guys. What's the guy name that's already on the Democratic? Oh goodness, Wiley. Is it Wiley?
Willie Nickel? Is that
Not
who?
Will. No, not Nickel.
Uh,
It's a guy. He's raised like 2.4 million. I can't think of his name,
I'll,
but
I'll I'll actually look it up right
at the
now. 2026
okay,
U.S. Senate.
yeah. He's not getting a lot of press right now. I think Andy Nicholson is running for on the Republican side already, and then there's another guy. He's a older guy. He's an attorney, and so I think that what's really cool about this is that I am the only independent. And so what I want from independence is, I want you guys to flood me with things that you want to be said, that needs to be said, while I have the opportunity and the voice to talk to these people, because I don't see any other independents coming on this ballot or on this in this race. And because of that, we have to start setting precedents somewhere.
Yep, ain't that the truth? Anyways, it is Willie Nickel, who is the former U.S. representative from North Carolina's 13th congressional district, and apparently there's
Wiley.
Wiley.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad. Wiley Nickel, my bad. But there's also one Democrat who's filed paperwork as well, named Robert Colin. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce his last name, but
Okay.
but I don't think we need to worry about him. I doubt that he's going to be the nominee.
It'll probably be Roy Cooper or some body that is an install, which is pretty much what we see a lot. It's people that were placed there, because if it's left up to these people, then you would see with the Democrats, why are you not running with the person who's already, took the torch and run behind that person? But that's not what we're dealing with. And that's why it's important to have other parties and be independent, because the two that we would hope that would do right, they're fighting amongst each other.
Yep. All right. Now that we got that one, is there anything else like you want to talk about?
So I just want to make this clear to everybody. Um, it takes a very, very strong person to say, I'm going to go out here and get out here and do this for our people. I would hope that you guys get to know me for me and ask me. The internet can be a very dangerous place. And I had to make an executive decision, even for my safety, to say I'm going to use this platform to show what I experienced in the government is why I want to go into the government and be that change that I want to see. And I am counting on the people of North Carolina and the people of America to start doing their own due diligence and not letting people define who you are, whether it be a job, a judge, a family member, or anything, and to start using your voice specifically in politics. That's where it's needed the most. We cannot be changed without us rolling our sleeves up and doing work. There will always be an open opportunity for you to get on a ballot, even if it's for, you'll hear me go back to PTA because it's kind of like the easiest one, right? And even if you're in a community and you don't have children, you can get on a PTA at a school if you guys didn't know that. But it's always going to be a way that you can help. After a while, when you start going through stuff in life, start asking yourself, not why me, say why not me, and use that. I want from my campaign for people to say, this girl did not let these people in. They came in droves to try to stop me from getting here today, to even be in able to file this. And when I found out there was an opportunity in North Carolina, I said, maybe I went through all of that stuff in North Carolina via Maryland. They followed us down to Georgia and harassed us there. You can look up the Supreme Court case about that. Maybe I went through all of that stuff for me to come back home. So I encourage anybody who's going through things to woosah for a second and ask, what is this telling me to do? And maybe it's telling you to be the voice for other people by sharing all of your adversity so that you can inspire somebody else to keep going or to get started. So that's pretty much all I have for that.
All right, I guess my last question. I've been asking this question to third parties, so I might as well ask you this as well. Do you have plans on uploading more videos to your YouTube channel?
Yes, I haven't started an official YouTube channel for the DeBerry for Senate, but I actually am going to be doing politics with Shaunesi. You would be amazed. I'm from Durham, North Carolina, and so many people did not know. They thought I was a Republican. They said that, and that's obviously because I vocally support, and still I support the current administration because that is the current administration. However, so many people don't know the difference between anything other than a Democrat, and that they're not supposed to be a Republican in my hometown. They don't know that other parties exist. I've had people ask me, can you tell me more? So to answer your question, I will be uploading multiple videos to educate our community, because a lot of the issues we have is just off of pure either ignorance or lack of access, and not knowing that, what I'm saying, things are possible. So my goal will be through my campaign to educate people, to educate them on me. If they see something that they may think is a certain way, the only person who can clear up any of my stuff is me. It may be true, then it may be as untrue as the person who wrote it. So yes, I will be making a lot of videos, uploading videos. It will be DeBerry for Senate. Everything will be uniform, and you'll see more posts come out about that very soon.
All right, that's going to be it for for this episode of the Political Freedom Fighters podcast. If you all have enjoyed, please hit the like button down below. Feel free to comment whatever you want. In case you want me to respond to your comments, hit the share button and hit the notification bell to be notified for any new updates for the new Political Freedom Fighters podcast episodes. So with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all later.